Hello everyone. Continuation to the lecture of software matrices. In this lecture we will see what should we measure during the testing, and also we'll see what are the software quality attribute prediction model. So in that first we'll see what should we measure during the testing. As you know, we perform the testing during the software once the software is developed or before the software developed. But whenever we have a testing, there is a question always in your mind is that what should we measure during the testing? Because if you don't know what should we measure, then it is very difficult to perform the measurement. So we should measure everything which we want to control and which may helps to find the answer of the questions like which we have discussed. There are lots of questions in your mind. So based on that question, the answer of that question is nothing the which creates the important for the measurement. So test matrices help us to measure the current performance of any project. The collected data may become the historical data for future project. So this data is very important because in absence of historical data, all estimates are just guesses. So hence essential to record the key information about the current project. So the test matrices may become an important indicator of effectiveness and efficiency of software testing process, and may also identify the risky area that may needs for the testing. So there are different measure we can perform during testing based on like time, quality of source code coverage, test case defect density, and review efficiency. Now these are the measure we can perform during the testing. Now we'll see one by one what is this measure. The first is the time. So we measure many things during the testing with respect to time. Like during the testing is going on, we can measure lots of things with respect to time. So some of the listed here. The first one is time required to run the test case, the total time required to run a test suite, a time available for the testing, the time interval between the failures, cumulative failure experienced up to a given time of failure experience in the time interval. So during the testing we can measure the lots of things. So these are the parameters which represent the things we can measure with help of times. So the test case requires some time for its execution. So measurement of this time may helps to estimate the total time required to execute the test suite. So this is the simplest matrix and used to estimate the effort required for the testing. So we may calculate the time available for testing at any given of time if I know the total time required for the testing. So generally the unit of time is the second, minute or hours per test case. So the total testing time may be defined in terms of hours. The time needed to execute a planned test suite may also define in terms of hours. So normally when you measure the testing time, it is measured in terms of hours, whereas also we need to measure the time to execute the given test case plan is also measured in terms of hours. So when we test the software product, we experience the failure. So this failure may be recorded in a different way like time of failure, time interval between the failure, cumulative failure experience up to given time, and failure experience in the given time interval. So we can measure these matrices with the help of time. Even we can measure the failure which we identify in terms of time also. Like we can find the time at which failure is occur, what is a time interval between the two failure which occur during the testing. Then we can find out the cumulative failures occur in the given interval of time. Likewise we can find out the failure in terms of time also. So we have one table which represent a time based failure specification and failure based failure specification. Means in the testing we need to specify the failure, but how to represent that failure, we have to approach either I can use the time based failure representation or I can use the failure terms for representation of failure specification. So the first table represent the time based failure specification. See here in this table, the first table represent the time based failure specification. So if I go with this table, the first column represent the failure occurs, the second represent the failure time measured in dips, means at what time the failure is occur, and third column represent the failure intervals in the minutes. So see at the first entry we have the failure 1 first is occur, and it is occur at the time 12 minutes. Okay, so that's why interval is 12 minutes. See the second entry, we have second failure is occur at the time 26 minutes. So that's why failure interval in minutes is what 14. Because the first failure is occur at 12, now second is occur at 26, that's why interval is 14. Likewise, the next one, the third failure is occur at 35 minutes, and that's why the interval is what 9. Because the previous failure is occur at 26 now, and then the third is occur at 35. Likewise, it is so this failure we have noted based on the time, like at what time the failure is occur and what is the failure interval time. Likewise, we have the failure number 9, which is occur at the time 155 minute, so the interval is what 30. Okay, the next last one is the failure is occurred at the minute 200 minutes, and their failure is what interval was 45 because previously occurred as 155. So this is the first table represent, we have represented failure in terms of time. Okay, now the second table where we can represent the failure in terms of failure. Okay, like here we have first column is the time in minutes, in the second column represent how many cumulative failures occur at that time up to that point, and the last one is what failure interval of 20 minutes, mean every 20 minutes how many failures are occur. Okay, so that's why we have put the interval of 20 minutes. So at the first 20 minutes the cumulative failure is 1, and that's why failure in interval what the count between the 20 minutes is what 1 failure is occur. Now in the second time interval we have 40, in that cumulative failure is what 4, so total failure occur up to 40 is what 4, but in the failure interval between 20 minutes what 3, because 1 is already occurring at the 20 minutes, and between 20 to 40 we have the next 3s are occur. Okay, so likewise we have maintained the failure in particular time interval. Likewise we have noted the failure at 60 minutes, 80 minutes, 100 minutes. Take the example like failure occur at 120 minutes, its cumulative is what 7, but the mean interval is what 1, because at the 100 minutes it's occur at the cumulative was 6, so between 100 and 120 we only occur is 1. Likewise, we have that cumulative failure represent that how many failure occur at that minute, and failure interval between the previous interval slot and up to that slot how many failures occur, it is noted. So there are two ways to represent the failure specification, either by time or failure based. So these two tables gives the idea about how the failure is you can note it. Either you can notate the failure in terms of time, or either you can notate the failure in terms of failure itself. So these two is helps to find out the additional that these two things with the using of these two things we can also represent the additional attributes, or we can also define the additional attribute like time taken to experience n failure. So from that table we can identify what is the time taken to experience the n error. So if you want to identify how many suppose I want to identify 10 failure, so what is the time required to identify the 10 failure. So from that table also you identify number of failures in the particular time interval. So we can set the particular time interval, in that particular interval you want to check how many failures occur, that also you can get from the table. Even you can get the total number of failure expressed after specified time, like after execution, like suppose you have a time, that time what is how many failures are occur, and also you can find out what is the maximum minimum number of failure experienced in the given interval of time. Likewise this basic time interval and failure, when you identify, that table helps to identify the additional measurement also. Okay, so that is in short, the time is the one of the parameter by which you can, this is very important, which is used during the testing, by which you can measure the failure also with the help of time. Next, the another measurement we can perform during the testing is what quality of source code. So to find the quality of derived source code after reasonable time of releasing, we can find that quality of source code by using the formula QSC is equals to WDB plus WDA divided by S. So what is this WDB? Is the number of vetted defects found before release. So whatever defects is identified before the release, that would be the WDB. And second, the number of vetted defects found after release, that would be noted as WDA. And S is represent the size of source code in terms of KLOC, means kilo lines of code. So that S, as you know, we have that source code, so we can find out what is the size of total source code in terms of KLOC. And once you know the total size, out of that you can find out the defects occur before release and after release, and based on that defect ratio along with the total source code, you can identify the quality of source code. Okay, so the weight weight of each defect is defined as it's defined on the basis of defect survivability and the removal cost. So obviously the weight assigned to each defect is based upon what is the survive, either how much the defect is survive and what is the removal cost of required for that defect. That will decide the weighted defect. Okay, so survivability rate is assigned to each defect by tester based on how important or serious the defect are. So obviously we will assign the weight based on the survivability. So survivability is assigned based upon by the tester, that how much important that particular defect or how the serious that problem is. So lower the value of this matrices indicates that the lower number of error detects or the lesser number of serious error detected. So that's why if the lower the value of QS is indicate that the lower number of errors are detected with and lesser error you identify. So you can calculate the number of defect per execution test case based on this style also. So this may also used to indicate the source code quality of source code progress through the series of activity. So based on this formula, you can also calculate what is the quality of your source code through the progress. This is also one measurement used for during testing. Next one of the measurements was source code coverage. So we may like to execute every statement of program at least one before it is released to the customer. So what we are expecting, we at least need to execute every statement of program at least one before giving to the customer. So hence the percentage of source code may be calculated as the percentage of source code is equals to number of statement of source code covered by test suite. As you know, when you design the test suite, we will find how many source code is covered by the test suite. So you have to, so in the upper line you have to find out the number of statement of source code covered by test suite and divided by total number of statement of source code and multiply by 100. So based on that you will get the 100 percentage of source code coverage. So obviously you have to identify how many lines are covered by your test suite divided by total lines are covered. So based on this ratio will decide the percentage of source code covered by your test suite. So if the higher value of this matrix of percentage of source code, the higher the confidence about the effectiveness of test suite, because once you get the higher value for this source coverage means you have covered the most of the statement of your source code. Okay, so that's why if the higher value means higher confidence of getting the effectiveness of test suite. So we may write the additional test cases for uncovered portion. So once you identify that some of the portions are uncovered, so for that part you can also write the source code coverage. So this is also one measurement you can apply during the testing, which is source code coverage. Next is the test case defect density. So this matrix is also used in during the testing for the measurement. So these matrices help us to know the efficiency and effectiveness of our test case. Means how your test case is effective and efficient, for that you can identify using the test case defect density. So test case defense is calculated as is equals to number of failed test case divided by number of executed test case multiplied by 100. So as you know how many number of test cases are executed, out of that how many the failed test case you identify, that you get it, based on that you can identify the test case defect density. So what is the failed test case? Obviously the failed test case means that the test case when we are executed which produces the undesirable output, means expected output you are not getting from that test cases, that is called as failed test case. And what is the passed test case? If the test case when is executed it will give the same expected output as a actual output, then we call it as a passed test case. So if the higher value of this matrices indicates that the higher efficiency and effectiveness of test case, because it indicates that to detect the higher number of defects, because once you got the higher number of value of this defect, it indicates that higher efficiency and efficiency of your test case, which indicates the greater number of defects you identified. Okay, so that is the one of the parameter which is test case defect density. And the last parameter which we can measure during the testing, what review efficiency. Review efficiency is a matrix that gives the insight on the quality of review process carried out during the verification. As you know, testing is the activity which perform the verification plus validation. So verification also called as testing. So whenever you want to measure the verification, or if you want to what should be measured during the verification, that is nothing but review efficiency. Because the review process is the matrices that will give the what is the quality of your review process which will carry out during that verification. So review efficiency is calculated as total number of defects found during the review divided by total number of project defects into 100. So out of the total project defects, out of that how many defects are identified by during the review process, that will decide the review efficiency. So if the higher value of this matrices means we have performed the review better. Okay, because the most of the review defect if you identify during the review, your review is efficient, in that case it's called your review is efficient. So that once the higher the value of review, you will get the higher efficiency of the review. So these are the matrices, these are the measure which we can use during the testing. So again revise, there are 5 measure during the measurement we can perform during testing. The first is what? Time. Based on the time also we can measure the testing. Next we can measure the quality of source code. The third we can measure the source code coverage. Fourth is what? Test case defect density. And the last is what? Review efficiency. So these are the matrices which we can use during the testing. Now the next part is what? Software quality attribute prediction model. Okay, so software quality is dependent on the many attribute like reliability, maintainability, fault proneness, testability and complexity. Okay, so this quality is not a direct measurement, it is dependent upon the lots of additional attribute which like reliability, maintainability. So to calculate this quality is a challenging task. Okay, so for which we need to define a systematic procedure by which we can calculate the quality of any product. Okay, so the number of models are available for prediction on one or more such attributes by the quality. So there are many models are available in the market which will calculate the prediction of your quality based on the various attribute of the quality. So the quality we can measure by various attributes, and there are many prediction attributes are prediction models are available by which we can measure the quality. So benefit of this model is that uh, it is in the large scale of system where where testing person are asked focus on their attention and resource on the problematic and critical areas of the system. So what is the benefits of that this model? The benefit is that whoever perform the testing person, that the who perform the testing, who has a focus on their attention and the resource on the problematic and critical areas of system. So mainly this model is concentrated on the critical areas and problematic areas of our system. So that's why this is prediction model which will give measure the quality by their attribute. So there are lots of these models. So some of the models, like to calculate the reliability model, we have 3 reliability model in your syllabus. Like we have basic execution time model, then logarithmic Poisson execution time model, Jelency Morenda model. So these are the 3 model which by which you can measure the reliability, which is the one of the attribute of quality. Then also we can measure the quality in terms of fault prediction. So we have fault prediction model where it will count the number of faults occur, and that will also decide the quality. And the last one of the model which is also called as quality model, which is a maintenance effort prediction model. So these are the model which measure the attribute on which the qualities depend. So once you measure this attribute, by this attribute you can identify the quality of any product. So these are the some model which are available for finding the software quality by their attribute of reliability, maintainability, fault proneness and testability. So we'll see one by one. The first one, what? Reliability model. So many reliability models for software are available where the main intention of that model is on the failure rather than fault. So we experience failure during the execution of any program and fault in the program which may leads to the failure depending upon the input given to program and what is the purpose of executing it. So hence the time of failure and the time between the failure may helps to find the reliability. So the reliability is mainly focused on because this reliability model is mainly focused on the failure. So it will measure that reliability in terms of time of failure and what is the time between the failure. These two attributes which helps to find out the reliability of that particular product. So software reliability is defined as a probability of the failure free operation of software in given time under the specified condition. So we have measured the reliability in terms of we have to find out the probability failure free operations of software under the specific condition. So based on that we can calculate the software reliability. So generally we consider the calendar time for the measurement this reliability, but we may like to know the probability that given software produce will not fail in the time period of 1 month or 1 week and so on. So however the most of available model are based on the execution model rather than the calendar model. So there are 2 times are used, the calendar time and the execution time, but the most of the reliability models are based on the current execution time which will give the better result than the calendar time. So in many cases we have mapping tables that convert the execution time to a calendar time for the purpose of reliability studies. Okay, so in order to differentiate both the timing, we have represent the execution time is represented by the tau, whereas calendar time is represented by t. So most of the reliability model are applicable at system testing level. Whenever the software fails, we note the time of failure, and also we try to locate and correct that failure that caused the failure. Okay. So when the failure is found, we just note down the time of failure and we try to locate and correct that fault whenever it will cause that failure. So during the system testing, system may not fail at regular interval and may also not follow the particular pattern. So the variation in the time interval between the successive failure may be described as a function, and that function is helps for identifying the failure. So there are two variations of functions are used which will identify the failure. So first is the mu of tau, which is nothing but called as average number of failure up to time r, and lambda tau represent the average number of failure per unit time at time r. It is also known as intensity function. So these are the two functions are used by which we can measure the variations of the time between the successive failure. So reliability of the program increases due to fault detection and the correction over time. Hence the failure intensity decreases accordingly. So we use this intensity function by which we can identify how many failures are detected and what is the time for correction. Okay, so that is the main intention of reliability model. So in the reliability, the first model is a basic execution time model. So most of the models of software reliability assessment was developed in 1979 by the J.D. Musa. So as the name indicates, it is based on the execution time tau. The basic assumption is that failure may occur according to non-homogeneous Poisson process during the testing. So what is basic assumption that a failure occurred because of non-homogeneous Poisson process NHPP during the testing. So what is the Poisson process? So many examples of given in the given real event which is called as Poisson event. So Poisson process example like number of user using the website in the given period of time. Okay, so as in the whenever website is used, the number of user using in the given period of time, there is also non-homogeneous Poisson process. Then number of person requesting for railway ticket in the given period of time. That is also non-homogeneous Poisson process. Number of email expected in the given period of time. Like these are called as Poisson process, and the failure occurred according to this non-homogeneous Poisson process during testing. That is a assumption is made in the basic execution model. So the failure during the testing represented non-homogeneous processes, and the failure intensity increases as a function of time. So J.D. Musa assumed that the decrease in the failure intensity as a function of number of failure observed at constant time. So that's why Musa has defined the formula for lambda mu is equals to, which can measure the failure intensity, is equals to lambda 0 in bracket 1 minus mu upon v 0, where lambda 0 is represent the initial failure intensity at the start of testing. When you perform start of the testing, that time what is the failure intensity, that will lambda 0. v0 represent the total number of failure experienced up to the infinite time, and mu represent the number of failure experience given up to given point. So at the given time, how many failures occur at the mu, at infinite time how many failures occur as the v0, and whereas lambda represent the initial failure intensity. So based on these three values, we can calculate the failure intensity of that failure intensity. So Musa has given the relation between the failure intensity and mean failure intensity. So what is that relationship between the failure intensity and mean failure intensity? So this is a function which represent mu and lambda. So as a lambda is a function of mu, and this lambda is the relation between the lambda and mu is represented by this graph. Okay. So if we take the derivatives of that relation of lambda of mu, we'll get the slope of intensity. So the first derivative of that equation if I take, we'll get the slope of failure intensity. So the decrement of the failure intensity per failure is calculated that d lambda by d mu is equals to minus lambda 0 by v0. So if we apply that first formula, in that if I apply the first derivative, we'll get the decrement of failure intensity, which is a slope of failure intensity. So negative sign indicates that there is a negative slope indicating decrementing trends to failure intensity. So if the value is negative, decrement is to failure intensity. So there is a relation between the execution time and mean time failure. So that relation is represented by the failure experience in the given execution time is calculated as mu of tau is equals to v0 in bracket 1 minus exponential of minus lambda 0 tau divided by v0. So these are the formula by which you can calculate the particular measurement. So this is the execution time is calculated, And the last, suppose if you have to calculate the present failure intensity for given execution time, it is also calculated by lambda tau is equals to lambda 0 exponential of minus lambda 0 tau divided by v0. Okay, so additional equations are given to calculate the additional failure required to experience to reach up the failure intensity objective. So these are the some formulas by which we can calculate what is the failure intensity. So based on that failure intensity, this basic execution time model will give the reliability of your model. Okay, so two additional equations are given to calculate the additional failure required to be experienced, which is delta mu to reach the failure objective of lambda f, and additional time required with objective of lambda tau. Okay, so these are the additional failures and additional times are required, which will calculated by the lambda mu delta mu and delta tau. Okay, so this is we have this equation by which delta mu and delta tau, which is the additional time and additional failure are required to achieve the intensity objective. So these are some basic execution model is based on the formulas by which you can calculate the reliability. So the based on this we have one example, like the given program is the given and 100 failures is occurs in infinite time. So it has a now experience with 50 failure. So initial failure intensity for 10 is given. So using the basic execution model, you have to calculate the present failure intensity, calculate the decrement intensity, determine the failure experience, and find the additional. Like whichever the four formulas given, the basic values are given v0, lambda 0, and initial intensity function is also given. So based on put that values, and you have to calculate the present failure intensity by putting the values in the formula. Like these are the question, but for which you need to remind that particular formulas. Like initially they are given v0, mu and lambda 0. Once you put that value into the lambda of mu, you will get the 5 failure per hour. Then decrement of failure function you calculate from the lambda 0 and v0. This is already given, you can directly calculate it. Then lambda 0 then failure intensity you can calculate with these three values only. Then also we can calculate the additional delta mu and delta t with the formula also. Likewise you have to put the initial value, you will get the appropriate value. Okay, so that is the model which is called as basic execution model. So still there we have the next two model, which is logarithmic Poisson execution model. So what is the logarithmic Poisson execution model? Which is a slight modification of failure intensity function. Obviously it is also based on failure intensity function, which is proposed by Musa, but there is modified that intensity function. That is, Musa has presented algorithmic Poisson execution model in which failure intensity is calculated as lambda of mu is equal to lambda 0 exponential of minus theta of mu. Okay, so where theta is represent that failure intensity. Then again we have calculated the slope. When you apply the derivative, you will get the slope. Also we have the relation with the failure intensity. Then also we have the additional failure and additional time is required with this formula. Even with this also having the formulas. So based on this also we have the problems on the logarithmic Poisson execution model, where the initial values are given, then we can calculate the values also. Okay, so based on that we have calculated the values. And the last model, which is based on reliability, is the Jelency-Morenda model. So Jelency-Morenda model is the easiest and simplest software reliability model, where the failure intensity function in the form of lambda t is equals to phi in bracket n minus I plus 1, where phi indicates that constant of proportionality, n indicates total number of error present, and I represent the number of error found by the time interval. So it assumes that all failures have the same failure rate. So failure intensity is directly to the number of errors. So that's why we have just directly calculate the reliability by R of t is equals to e raised to minus delta t. So delta is the failure function intensity and where t is the operating time. So based on that we can directly calculate the R of t. So it's very simple formula. There is no any additional formulas required to calculate the reliability, where R of t is equals to e raised to minus delta t. Okay, so program may express 200 failures, 100 failure. Like this is problem is also based on Jelency-Morenda, where you can calculate the values directly. Okay, so that is about the reliability model. From the this is a reliability prediction model by which we can measure the quality of software reliability, software quality as a one of the attribute as the reliability. So in the next lecture we will see what are the additional model which is used for the measuring the software quality. Okay, thank you.